Uncomfortable truths. Why are they so important to address as a leader of a team or as a business owner?
Well, because life isn't perfect and life isn't pretty, and sometimes things go wrong, and sometimes you have to have tough conversations with people for a variety of different reasons. I mean, it's in that. Think about anybody's life. You run into situations where you have to deal with conflict or you have to deal with some uncomfortable situation, and what people don't understand is that by holding it in and not learning how to do this, you're just building baggage within yourself that's going to weigh you down.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about earlier, the longer that you let something simmer, it's just going to be harder to move past it and grow from it. So
Yeah, I have a rule. I think I've told you guys this. If I wake up 3 days in a row with something that's bothering me, then I'm just immediately address it with whoever that person is, regardless of what it is. But, because ultimately it starts to eat you from the inside out, and it creates baggage. And when you don't deal with those things, it's doing a couple of things. It's building that baggage up, but it's not giving you the skill when it comes up next. It's like this is just one of them. Shit, something else might come up next week or the next week or the next week. But being able to sit with someone and just realize they're just a person. They're not going to hit me or hurt me. Yeah. They let me just tell them what's on my mind. I think a lot of times people they know what to say, but sometimes they don't know how to say it, because that's also important, right? The way you deliver. If I came in here and said, hey, Shannon, man, like yesterday you did this and blah, blah, blah. Or I came in and said, hey, Shannon, maybe it's a better way to look at this. Yesterday, this situation came up. And so it's learning how to navigate those things, how to sometimes, you get a lot more accomplished with sugar than salt, they said, right? So learning how to deliver that message in a uncomfortable situation is a skill. But once you know it for every situation. So when you know it for a work, you know it for your relationships, you know it for your friends, you know it for any time something comes up in life. You've built that muscle memory where you can pull back and say, oh, this is another one of those situations. Oh, I've been through 30 of these before. So your subconscious allows you to then progress and get it taken care of.
For some reason, I think of uncomfortable truths as almost like the whole everybody gets a trophy. Like, basically we're making everybody a winner, when that's really not the truth. And I'm wondering if that kind of progresses into today's world as well, just because I think it's kind of like everybody's not used to hearing rejection. So it makes it harder to even kind of come forth and kind of explain these truths to people that they're not performing at a certain level, or there's things that you want them to do to change, because people get their feelings hurt because they haven't had any kind of objections.
Well, I think as a leader, it comes down to self-awareness. So like being honest with yourself, like you have to address this internally before you can address it with someone else. But like if you're not self-reflecting and being self-aware of situations like this, then you're not really sitting down and being honest with yourself and therefore addressing it. So I think it is really important to have hard conversations sometimes, make hard decisions, and just have those uncomfortable topics. But sometimes that's where you get the most yards gained, is addressing the elephant in the room.
Listen, Mike just talked about it's a little bit of a different scenario, but it's along the same things, is that, are you not communicating and dealing with the uncomfortable truths because you're afraid of them, or because society is, telling you that, hey, these things aren't so, the whole everybody gets a trophy thing, right? It's like, this is the wrong impression that you're making on kids, because that's not the way life is, right? So sport should resemble life in some cases, and that's not the way life works. When you lose, you lose. There is no trophy, there is no second place. So they're starting these kids off early on learning, I think, something that is not going to pay off down the road as they become an adult, because that's just not the way the world works as an adult. If you go in to get a job and you don't get it, it's not like you get a trophy for getting second place. You either got the job or you didn't get the job.
Yeah, I know we're getting off a little bit off a subject, but I mean, I think you talked about this before, as far as even we were talking about being forever young, in a sense that competition kind of keeps you sharp. And by everybody getting a trophy, you almost eliminate that whole competition, because it's like, oh, well, fuck it, I'll get a trophy at the end anyway. Or I can't wait till the end of the game because I'm going to get a snowball, not looking for the W in the game. So I think it is, I do think we're living in a different culture, but I think that's that might be a podcast for a whole other time as well. But yeah, uncomfortable truths. It's a big issue right now that you should address.
Listen, I think it's having bigger implications on our society than that's causing us to live almost in an alternative reality, because you have this younger generation that, I'm not sure who's teaching them or where they're learning things from, what's right and what's wrong. But man, it seems to be going, you wonder why is the protected classes growing at such a rate that it's unbelievable. I have a theory, and the theory is because when you're in a protected class, you're in a protected class. You don't play by the same rules as people that are in the unprotected class. And so, when we're looking at, the implications it's having on society, I think they're bigger than we even know it. That there's implications of this that are happening that we really haven't seen or just starting to see now, that it's not good. So you got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to tell people what's real and what's not real. And you got to be able to do it in a loving way so they understand it and receive it. Because if you're telling them and they don't receive it, then it does no good.
Yeah, I think it's all about having respect when you're delivering that message.
Yeah.
Yeah, and y'all let us know, because this is something that we could talk about in so many different ways for
Oh,
hours. So
so
let us
many
know,
ways.
yeah, if what part about this that you guys want us to talk about next.